Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. It is a beautiful, beautiful hump day, so maybe Indiana can get over that hump tonight as they take on Nebraska. Welcome into Indiana Sports Beat Radio. I am Jim Coyle, and appreciate you being here. If you're looking for an engaging and entertaining sports talk show, you're at the wrong place, so go someplace else. Not just kidding. I hope you're having a great day. Appreciate everybody being along with us. Plenty to talk about on the program today. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette will join us. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star, and Rick Bozich from WDRB.com, the captain. Appreciate you as always. Tomorrow night, Caitlin Clark Mania invades Bloomington. Tonight, the Nebraska Cornhuskers come to town as Indiana men try to get over the hump on hump day. Like I said, UConn, number one, UConn last night goes down to number 15 Creighton, and John pointed out in the break that, what did you say, John? 0-21? That he thought he saw.
So over the past 10 seasons, and I guess I'm just trusting the person that put this stat out, but over the last 10 seasons for UConn, they are 0-21 against ranked opponents on the road, but they still have 2 national titles. Trying to say that road games, I guess ranked road games, we shouldn't put too much stock into them the way that we do. But I mean,
well, in the losses, but because they're tough to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a big number. 0-21 in 10 years. And you've won 2 national titles. Like, you haven't found a way to steal a single ranked road win. Yeah,
but you can imagine it doesn't take a couple games a year, and in their conference, that's going to happen. So, that's just one game, one road game a year that you're talking about. So not a big surprise. Not a big surprise. It sounds bigger than it is really. Tennessee, they do go on the road. They don't beat a ranked team. They beat Missouri 72-67. Iowa steals one at Michigan State. Very important win for Iowa. More so a bigger loss for Michigan State as they're trying to stay in that top 4 of the Big Ten Conference to get that double bye. They're the last team with a double bye right now in the conference standings. Texas Tech is able to hold off TCU at home 82-81. Arkansas goes on the road and steals a win over Texas A&M. Syracuse does the same at North Carolina State. And the biggest matchup last night, number 25 BYU holds off number 11 Baylor 78-71. So battle there, and there were other games as well. But those are the ranked teams, the bigger games of last night. Tonight, as I said, Indiana hosting Nebraska. St. Mary's won. They barely hold off San Francisco 70-66. A lot of close games last night. Utah State upset. Nope. Yeah, they upset San Diego State, number 19 San Diego State. 68-63. Villanova. I watched this game. They get a home win over Butler, 72-62. Butler really needing that win because they're on the bubble, but so is Villanova. I think Butler was a little closer to being in. As a matter of fact, I think yesterday I saw that they might have been on the last four in line. That'll move them. Villanova was a little further down. So a big and that was an important win for Villanova last night. Mentioned Syracuse going on the road. Florida State winning at home against Boston College. West Virginia. Iowa with a big road win. Man, Iowa is a really Jekyll and Hyde team. They, I don't know if they're going to make it into the NCAA tournament or not, but we shall see. We shall see. The Big Ten standings now, as we look at those, Purdue, of course, still at the top, but Illinois waiting for that matchup with the Boilers that is coming up a few games away to see what happens there. When does Illinois play again? They play today, this evening, 6:30 at Penn State. That will get them within a game of Purdue. And then Illinois has back-to-back home games before they go to Wisconsin and then host Purdue. So it's going to be an interesting end of the season in the Big Ten. Illinois has a legitimate shot of catching Purdue for the Big Ten championship. I think the worst case for Purdue is that they tie for it. We'll see how that works out. Looking forward to seeing tomorrow's game. The women's take on Iowa. Indiana's women's team has been a little bit of an enigma this season. They have beaten everybody they're supposed to beat, save Illinois. But the teams that they were expected to lose to, I guess you'd say, they don't lose. They get destroyed by like 30. They've only lost 4 games this year, but it's by an average of 20 points. Mind-boggling. They lose by 30 to Stanford, by 30 to Iowa. But we'll see. We'll end with, oh my gosh, I can't think of her name. Back on the court for Indiana. We'll see if that makes a difference for the Hoosiers. Number 1, UConn loses to Creighton last night. First time they've lost in a while. But as John pointed out, winning road games against ranked teams is tough no matter how good you are. And they didn't just lose. They lost by 19, 85-66. Creighton just did not miss in that game last night. And you're going to have that. That's going to happen. Rick Pitino really catch a lot of grief over what he said. I'm like, get over it, people. My gosh, he's a competitive dude. If I saw somebody else in the Atlantic write something else again yesterday, and all I saw was Pitino's classless this, and I'm like, oh, shut up. Are you still writing about this? If you are, you've just got a lack of content, a lack of creativity. That's just my thoughts. I'm like, get over it, get past it. The Pac-12, if there is such a thing, makes Teresa Gould the first female Power 5 commissioner. Again, that's kind of the Pac-12 is not really a Power 5 league. They don't have 12 teams. The Pac-12 has appointed Teresa Gould, the league's deputy commissioner, as its new commissioner beginning March 1st. Gould, who takes over for George Klavikoff, will become the first woman to be commissioner of a Power 5 conference. She was appointed by the presidents of all two members, Washington State and Oregon State, who make up the Pac-12 board because of the impending departures of the league's 6 other members to the Big 10, Big 12, and the ACC. In December, the two schools received full control of the league's decision-making, settling a lawsuit dispute with the 10 other members. The Pac-12 last week announced it was parting ways with Klavikoff, who had been their commissioner since 2021. Shocker that they parted ways there. I'm not sure what it means to be commissioner of a 2-team league, but hey, there is that. Appreciate everybody jumping on the Andy Moore Honda hotline early and often, as Andy Moore Honda is Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. We appreciate each and every one of you for being with us. Sean joining us from Muncie says he's enjoying the misery of Indiana basketball one day at a time. We'll hear from Mike Woodson, as a matter of fact, as he spoke to the media yesterday. And trying to think when the best time to do that would be. John Boy, when would you like to do that?
We can figure something out. I mean, we did air the entire press conference yesterday. We don't have to revisit it unless we just really want to.
There's though I think I sent you, there's 2 questions because I want to talk about them more in depth.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we can, if we have time, we'll do it in the sometime in the second hour, more than likely.
Look forward to that. But yeah, I want to talk about it more in depth. It's the answers that you get, or actually the lack of answers that you get. It's the same old. And you would think that somebody has got to be there to lean in and say, hey, Coach, I don't know if you noticed, but you don't really answer the questions. Whenever a question is asked, the response is just to say what's going on. Well, we can all see what's going on. We can all see that they're not hitting free throws. And the answer is, well, boy, we practice them every day. Well, guess what? That's not working. Ever thought, crazy, I know, but ever thought of doing something different as to how you're practicing them? He said that their shots are not bad. Well, they're not that good if they're not going in. There is something there. Then it's up to the coach to find out what the problem is. It doesn't matter if you have a magic potion or not. You're being paid $4.2 million to find out what the problem is. If you don't know what it is, then get somebody that does. Bring somebody in. Talk to them. One of the consultants. So Indiana has all these coaches, all these consultants, yet nobody knows how to just deal with something as easy as free throws. To me, that's a bigger problem. But that's just my thoughts. Hey, we've got lots coming up. Dylan Sinn's going to join us right after this. Brought to you by our good friends from Hoosier Hanks East, where tonight, after the game, you will find after the game with Todd Leary. Indiana basketball post-game show. Coming up next, Dylan Sinn joins us. Stay tuned right back after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you.
Did you enjoy your what is it you had going on? Did you just get married? I can't remember.
No, it was my bachelor party over the
Bachelor
weekend.
party.
Yes. No, I had an absolute blast. I had a blast. We went to the Blackhawks game on a Saturday. They won for the first time in a month, which was great.
Oh, dang.
They had lost like 10 in a row. So and they won while we were there. So that was great to see. But yeah, wedding's in 2 months from yesterday.
Oh yeah, April 20th. I remember you mentioning that now.
That's right.
My 4-year anniversary with my wife is exactly a month from today, March 21st.
Oh, wonderful. That's great.
And I'll remind Jim of this. My anniversary of beginning working with Jim is the day before that.
It's funny.
It's either the day before or the day after. I don't remember specifically, but it's one of those days.
Oh gosh. How's everything going with you?
I'm fine. I think Jimbo's fine too.
All right.
Just talking about the hump that Indiana is eternally trying to get over.
There you go.
That's right.
Yeah, the ever-present hump. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna get there.
Somebody put something on Twitter. I wish I had it saved, or I wish I'm favorited it or something. But somebody put something on Twitter earlier this morning that it was a photo of Mike Woodson and just a bunch of dudes, and it's like him giving this speech, saying, "All right, we're about to get over this here hump." It's like a little cartoon visual. It's pretty funny.
Oh no.
Got about 45 seconds, Jimbo. One thing y'all can talk about, maybe not the first segment that he hasn't brought up yet, though, is the official announcement of the new football playoff format.
Yes. We can talk about how people are confused about how much this is a bad thing for Notre Dame.
Really? I haven't heard that side of it.
Well, that's the thing. It's not. Like people yesterday saw the new format and were like, wow, Notre Dame is really getting screwed here. And it's like, not really.
Or 10 seconds. Yeah. Here we go.
Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this hump day. John, I heard you talking about that. I'm going to do you a solid and send that to you.
Oh, yeah, that Twitter post.
Yeah. Sending
It
it
gave
to
me a
you
good laugh
right.
this morning. It gave me a good laugh.
There you go. You should have it. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this hump day. And we've got Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. Always a good time to get over the hump on hump day, Dylan.
That's right. There's nothing better.
No better time to do it than on hump day. I mean, isn't that what you're supposed to do?
I think so. Remember that commercial from like 5 years ago with the camel going, oh boy.
There you go. There's yeah, actually there was text with it. I can't see it on there, but it just says, okay, guys, we're going to get over this here hump.
Yeah, it's on the far right of the screen. I just wanted to share that for those who hadn't seen it, but
There we go.
I'll show myself out.
Nothing to do with your upcoming nuptials.
There you go, Jim.
Heard you talking about that in the break as well. But lots to talk about, lots going on.
Sure.
Tomorrow night is Caitlin Clark Mania Day in Bloomington as the Hawkeyes come into town. Tonight, Indiana hosting Nebraska in a game that is important for Nebraska because they need it.
Yeah.
The importance for Indiana is merely cosmetic. And there's no other way to put it. It's simply cosmetic. I don't believe that there is any importance as far as anything of relevance other than cosmetics. UConn goes down last night to Creighton big, but John pointed out they're 0-21 against ranked teams on the road.
Yeah.
In the last 20 years. But I'm like, well, that's like one game a year.
10 years. 10 years.
Oh, 10 years. Okay. So that's losing to two ranked teams on the road a year. That's not really a big deal when you spread it out over 10 years.
Considering they've won 2 national championships in that period, it's weird though. Like,
that's what John said, yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, in terms of IU, I will be at both of those games. So everyone knows I will be in Bloomington tonight. I will stay over, and then I will be at the game tomorrow. So,
you're spending the night? Well, we'll have to do dinner, brother.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll take you to dinner.
There we go. Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. I mean, it should be fun, right? I guess we get first of all, you get to see Keisei Tominaga play, which is always fun. One of the most electrifying players in the Big Ten. If you have not seen him, check him out. He had 28 points the last time IU and Nebraska played against each other. I guess we get to see the next evolution in Gabe Cupps on defense. He shut down Boo Buie on Sunday relatively well. We'll see if he gets to do the same thing to Tominaga. So that's something to watch out for.
And you know what? Gabe Cupps gets a lot of grief because he does not produce offensively. And he doesn't. I'm not going to lie to you. But his last game was probably his most productive.
Yeah.
He hit 2 3-pointers, 2 out of 3 from deep. He had 8 points. And I think there's been so much pressure on him to not screw up that he has been focusing on not screwing up so much that offense has not been, other than actually handling the ball, scoring, shooting, has not been, and this offense does not lend itself to guys in his position to scoring unless you're an Xavier Johnson who has that kind of burst to get to the rim or whatnot. And I think that his confidence is growing a little bit now.
Yeah, and no, I think that's important, which is why, like, I want to be clear because I've been somewhat critical of him this year too, and I want to be clear that I never thought that he wouldn't be a good player for Indiana eventually. I think he will be a very good player for Indiana eventually. Nothing I saw this season ever made me think otherwise. It was just a question of there were people, and I don't want to relitigate a fight we had earlier in the season, but there were people earlier in the season who thought that even when Xavier Johnson was healthy, that Gabe Cupps should be the starter. And I just don't think that's the case. I think it makes more sense for Gabe Cupps to be eased in. Now, that turned out not to be a possibility. Xavier Johnson has missed most of the season with injuries. Gabe Cupps had to play. And I think that we've seen what he can do on the defensive end, which is good. He is a good defensive player. I think he will be eventually a good offensive player. I think it maybe as soon as next season, he will be a player who can at least make plays on offense to spread the floor a little bit because he's a good shooter. He was a good shooter in high school. Even in a small sample size, he shot 40% from 3 this year. There's no reason he should not be a guy who you can count on to hit a decent percentage of 3-pointers and spread the floor. That should be the bare minimum for him. And I think we're finally starting to see that, which is par for the course for. I think we get kind of skewed with some of these guys because when you see freshmen come in and play right away, most of them are 5-star recruits. who are not really freshmen in that sense because they're 5-stars. They're better than that, right? Gabe Cupps was a guy who was going to take a couple of years to develop. There was no reason he should have walked in the door and immediately been a 12-point-a-game scorer, right? I think right now he's just he's doing what a freshman should do in February of his freshman year, which is figuring things out a little bit, right? All you want to see from a freshman at this point in his freshman year is just more confidence, growing confidence. And I think we're seeing that from him. And yeah, like I said, I've seen nothing from him that suggests to me he will be anything but a significant and good player for Indiana in the future.
I agree. He's just he's a 4-year player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody talks about wanting to have 4-year players. Oh, wait, Indiana's got to have. Okay. Well, if you get a 4-year player, guess what? They're not going to be great in year 1 because if they were, they would not be 4-year players.
Right.
But you can't have everything. John, I'm going to have when you get a second, we're going to listen to those 2 clips in this segment. I'd like to listen to the first one, and then we'll stop it and talk about those. But Mike Woodson, and just pop in when you're ready. Mike Woodson met with the media yesterday, and at this point, you can see the questions that are being asked. They're trying to guide to a certain area, but Mike Woodson is still not. I don't know if it's oblivious or purposeful, but the questions are not really answered. They're the answers that are given are just an explanation of what's going on, which we already know what's going on. I was talking about the free throw problem. The fact that they're 326th or whatever they are out of 350 teams. And his response is, man, boy, I don't know. We practice them every day. And if I had a magic potion, okay, you don't have a magic potion. Practicing every day doesn't work. Something needs to be done different, but yet it doesn't appear that anything differently is being thought of to do. It's not being addressed. It's not being more deeper examined. Why is this happening? Or what are you doing to get to that answer? Nothing. It appears that, like everything else, it's going to fix itself at some point. What, for a game? That's my issue, and that would be my problem, is what these areas just don't seem to be being addressed with a forward-thinking and different manner. Here's a question that was asked of him. I'm not sure if that has to do with free throws, but let's hear what this
one is. The I believe this. So I have questions 3 and 4, and this one is the rebounding question. The one after, I believe, is about the free throws.
Try to address that.
Well, we work on blockout drills pretty much every day. We don't send 4 guys to the rim because I'm a big believer. You can send 3, but trying to send 4 and then having balance coming back the other way from a defensive standpoint, I've always thought it hurts you. So, from an offensive standpoint, I think our 3 bigs, they just got to be more active in going to the glass. Malik, especially because he doesn't get a lot of putbacks. And we don't get them as a team. And then defensively, all 5 guys. I mean, we've gotten outworked. I mean, the last game, second chance shots, 50-50 balls, they were the difference. And when we're doing the right things and getting 50-50 balls and blocking out and rebounding, when we rebound with teams, we're normally pretty good. And we put ourselves in a nice position to win. But again, on the other night, it was the 50-50 balls and the second chance opportunities that we gave up, along with the missed free throws that cost us, I thought.
Okay, there's 3 things I'll pull out of that. We don't send 4 to the glass because I think it hurts you. We've got to be more active. We've gotten outworked. When we do, we've been successful. Well, I'll go backwards. Well, how successful has your season been? Not very. So that says that hasn't been very often that has happened. not sending forward to the glass. You can have a philosophy on that, but when that philosophy is not working, maybe it's time to change that philosophy. Got to be more active. Well, whose job is that to get them more active in practice? And if it's not happening in practice, it damn sure is not going to happen in games. And if it's not happening in games, what is being done to change that? Getting outworked. That's something that's kind of happened all year long. We've seen it happen all year long. What is being done to address that? And I just don't hear any answers as to these questions, Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, so he gave the answer that he gave in there that stands out, which I believe he's correct in, is that Malik Renew is just not a very good rebounder. The reason that Indiana is not as good of a rebounding team as it should be, considering how much height it puts on the floor, is because Malik Renew, for his size, is not a particularly good rebounder. And I think you can probably drill down on a couple of reasons why that is. I don't think Malik Renew is a lazy player. I don't think he's not working. I think he's a very good player who Indiana needs, who just is not, that is not the skill where he thrives, right? And so I don't know exactly, like, I do think that there's a tendency at this point to look at basically everything Mike Woodson says through some kind of why is this wrong, right? I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with what he said. It's more just, and I'm sure he could go through the entire practice plan and say, here's what we're doing to try to get these guys to rebound, and here's what I'm saying to try to make sure that they're working and all of that. And I get that, right? Like you would like to hear exactly what they're doing. I don't think Mike Woodson doesn't know how to teach rebounding, right? Like there have been good rebounding teams at Indiana in his first 2 years, and Khalil Ware has gotten better as a rebounder this year. He has.
Well, you've had an All-American the first 2 years. You don't have that. So
you don't. But like Khalil Ware has gotten better as a rebounder this year. I think Mackenzie Mbako has gotten better as a rebounder this year, and they've pushed him to be a better rebounder as they've realized that Malik Renew is not going to be able to carry the load in that area as much as they would like. I thought the example that I go back to for this is the Illinois game, where on the road, when they played Illinois on the road, where their game plan that day was terrific, I thought, which was Khalil Ware was out. Okay, what are we going to do? We are going to have Mackenzie Mbako crash the glass at every single opportunity. And I thought he did a great job with that. And I think that that's something that they probably need to do a little bit more often, is say, Mackenzie Mbako, you are our second best rebounder. Go out there and do it. And obviously you keep working with Malik Renew. He is just a sophomore. He will get better in that area, I would expect, because they're going to need him to do so. But I think that is probably where you need to go with that. He's like, tell Mackenzie Mbako that you're the second best rebounder. Go out there and act like it.
The guards average a total of 4 rebounds per game. I can tell you right now that's not going to you can look at virtually, and I have not, but I would be hard-pressed to imagine there's another Big Ten team that has so few rebounds coming from their guard tandem in totality. Not that you expect they're not going to be your leading rebounders. I get that. But they have to be a part of the equation. And 2 rebounds a game, I can get 2 rebounds a game today. That means they're not engaged, and that's part of the not sending 4. Guess what? Why not? What you don't send 4 because you think that it is not in your best interest? Well, not much has been in your best interest, so maybe it's time to try something different. And that's, I think, what a lot of Indiana fans are wondering, why something different has not been done offensively with this team, and along with things like just simple rebounding. I mean, free throws. Whatever you're doing in practice, however you're practicing, is not working. John laughed at me yesterday because I said it, had I been able to ask, I would have. I would have brought up, because free throws were a big part of yesterday's, and we'll hear this in the next question or the next answer from him. But personally, I would have guys shooting free throws with the music as loud as it could possibly be, music that they hate, and I'd have somebody standing behind them with a pair of cymbals, crashing the cymbals as they're shooting free throws, doing all kinds, whatever, yelling at them, whatever it takes to get that mental capacity locked in. And I'm serious, because something so small as the other day in the game against Northwestern, there was a lady that was clapping during the free throws. It was when Indiana shot free throws. It was very quiet, obviously. It reminded me of what was the former coach at Wichita State?
Greg Marshall.
Greg Marshall. His wife, I think, would scream during opposing teams' free throws. Kind of a little embarrassing for me, and probably a reason why he doesn't have a job. But anyway, there was somebody that would clap, and it would break up the monotony and probably got your attention or got their attention. So anyway, I would be doing some different things. Do it differently. Don't make it easy for them to just stand there shooting free throws. Hell, that is not what it's like in a game. That's not game situation. That's not having to deal with things mentally. But let's hear what Woody had to say on the free throw situation.
Well, I mean, it's, I look at, McKenzie, he's probably our best free throw shooter. Gabe is not a bad free throw shooter from there. It's not real good. And it's not like these guys got bad strokes. Malik's shot is a good shot. The big fella Ware is a good shot. Gallo's shot's not that, it's not tore up. None of these guys' shots are tore up. So I look at it just from a mental standpoint, man. You can't be scared to step up there. It's a part of basketball. It's been that way from the beginning of the time. So, all I can do is keep preaching. If their shots were tore up, then that's different. Then you got to work on the mechanics and do a lot of different things in that area. But it's they don't have bad shots. So it's between the ears to me. We just got to get these guys comfortable in making them, because it's a big part of the game, and you should punish teams when they put you in that position.
We got to get these guys comfortable. Sure does sound like something we've heard all year. We gotta. Okay. What are you doing besides shooting free throws in a normal practice session different to do that? That would be my question, because it ain't working. Gabe Cupps shoots 61% from the free throw line. CJ Gunn, 66% from the free throw line. Trey Galloway, 54.8% from the free throw line.
That's the one that's wild to me, by the way. Trey Galloway at 55% is wild. He was not a bad free throw shooter last year. He has never been a bad free throw shooter in his entire career. Where did that come from? It is wild to me that has happened this season. It's probably cost Indiana a couple of games. That alone, him being 55%.
Every game they've lost they've lost games because of free throw shooting. The last one included. But Malik Renew, 64%. Kel'el Ware, 67%. So you've got 4 of your 5 starters averaging somewhere around 60%. The only one that's not is Mackenzie Mbako, who is shooting 83% on the year. But even that, boy, he sure has a lot of games here of late. I think that's a lot of that's built on starting the season with 23 straight free throws.
Yeah, that's right. He was 100% right at the start of the year. Yeah,
he's had a lot of 50% games of late, or 3 of 5 or whatnot. What are they doing to do what he says they need to do? That's the question, and that's what I wonder is being done.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, right? Like I appreciated that he did say it's between the ears, because I think he's right. Like I do think that I look at these guys shooting free throws, and I don't think that, like, I go, but my favorite example of a free throw shooter is Joakim Noah, because he had the ugliest free throw shot in the history of basketball. It was awful. It was terrible. When he got into the NBA, he was shooting something like 40% from the line, just like bottom of the NBA free throws. And he had this same stroke for years and years and years, but he worked on it so much he ended up at 70%. Like he there was no mental gap for Joakim Noah. It was just, I physically cannot do this. If I rep it often enough, I will end up being able to physically do this. And he did it. It was one of the darndest things I'd ever seen as a Bulls fan. So yeah, I do think that it is a mental thing for Indiana. I don't think any of them has a terrible free throw shooting stroke. And so I guess, I mean, to be clear, it is easier said than done to fix a team-wide mental block in an area. I don't think that is the easiest thing to do. I think that you're right. I think that that shooting free throws with noisemakers behind them would be a thing to do. I don't know that they're not doing that, right? Like he said, we shoot them in practice. He didn't say we shoot them in the quiet, right? They could be doing that, but I do think that it is easier said
I think
than
that
done
if they were doing some things like that, he would mention that they are making an effort. So that just tells me otherwise. But we've got to take a quick break. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette is with us, and we've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our friends at Chop Shop Market and Table, where each Monday night at 7:05 you can find Don Fisher and Inside Indiana Men's Basketball, and where you can also pick up some. If you've never had Wagyu steaks, you're missing out. Voiles Family Wagyu, which is very out of Mitchell. They grow these things here. They're locally farmed, and you can get Wagyu right there at Chop Shop from the Voiles Family Farm. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home, did you see Indiana Glory on TNT?
I did not.
It's still, they've run it a bunch. Try to find it. It's cool. It's Reggie interviewing Isaiah and Larry.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool.
It actually is. They did the one thing he didn't. I wish Reggie would have touched on was Larry and IU. But ironically, when Isaiah was very, he honored Larry a lot. Said, those guys were the guys that we had to learn to win from, basically, when he made it up there. But he said that he remembers the first time they played the Celtics in a preseason exhibition game in Hartford. He said they had Kent Benson on him, and you got to think Kent Benson at this time has been out of school only 4 years, so It's not like he's old. But he said, Bird said, "Don't put that worthless guy on me." He couldn't stand Benson. And
was he one of the guys that kind of gave him a hard time when he first came to IU?
He was apparently the guy.
The guy, okay.
And because every time in the NBA they played, he would torch him.
Okay.
Torch him.
Man.
Now, part of that I blame on Bird for not being a little tougher.
Yeah, he was. Boy, it's so funny. The difference between 18-year-old Bird and like 23-year-old Bird in terms of his confidence was just so like night and day different. Like when he got to Bloomington at 18, he didn't know which way he was going with anything. And
can you imagine thinking that Bloomington is such a gigantic ass town in 1974?
Right, he was like, "This is the big city for me." What are you talking about?
1974, Bloomington, no less. Holy cow!
And 8 years later, this man is the best basketball player in the world and talking all the trash to every single person he meets. Like where did this? Like, I understand that he matured. Everyone matures from the time they're 18 to the time they're 23. I get it. But my goodness, man, where did this come from?
Here's the sad but true. Had Bird not left, he would have been on the 75 team.
I think he got there in 76.
Nope, he got there in 74.
74. Okay.
2 seconds, guys. Here we go.
90 days or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMoreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back. Hump Day. Hump Day. That means Indiana's busy heading up that hump. I wonder if they've gotten an early morning start on their trek up the hump. That could be a new song. Up the hump. Got to get up the hump. Got to get over the hump. Then go down the hump. The hump, the hump. No, nobody joined in there, so I guess not.
I'm sorry, we're not going to harmonize with you, Jim. Sorry about that.
I cannot blame you. Welcome back on this Wednesday. Appreciate you being with us. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining us. Kyle Neddenriep later from the Indy Star, as will be Rick Bozich in the second hour. Grateful for everybody listening, no matter where you are, down on the river on 97.7 ESPN, The Ref in Evansville, and parts beyond there. Up on 1380 or 1230 WJOB 104.7, the voice of the region throughout the region and Chicago. Appreciate everybody there. Tons of IU fans in Chicago. As a matter of fact, that is the second largest congregation of Indiana alumni, by the way. Appreciate everybody listening on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM there. Fort Wayne's sports station and home of Dylan Sinn, the Tin Caps, and much more. And soon to be Mr. and Mrs. Dylan Sinn. What does the missus do, if I might ask?
She works with me at the Journal-Gazette.
Somebody get HR on the phone.
She is actually our high school editor, high school sports editor. So if you're looking for coverage of the state basketball finals this weekend, the girls' state basketball finals, she's the place to go. Victoria Jacobson, no one better.
There you go. Well, congratulations again on that. As Dylan is tying the. I'm trying to think of a funnier. He's blending the ink. How about that?
There you go. It's a journalism motif that you got going there.
Absolutely. Blending the ink. That comes up as soon as basketball season's over, right?
That's right. April 20th. Yeah. So we're.
That's right. That's right. We talked about this. It's the same day as Notre Dame's spring football game.
It is. Absolutely. So yeah, it's 2 months from yesterday. I am hoping to maybe see Purdue in the Final Four, and then go to the wedding.
I did you one better than that. When I was married once, and when I got married in late February. And everyone was at, why would you get married in February? Because I was competing in pro rodeo all the time then, and that was probably the least busiest time of the year. And so that's exactly how that time got picked. I'm like, okay, that gives me the most opportunity. It's going to be in February.
When can we fit this into our schedule?
That one was more about my schedule, unfortunately. But absolutely. UConn goes down last night. College football approves is it a 7-5 or a 5-7? 5-7 playoff.
5-7.
The top-ranked 5 conference champions. And then the 7, what do you call?
At large
bids, yeah. Although the Big Ten and SEC trying to pull an end around, I've seen, with potentially requesting additional guaranteed spots for those 2 conferences, which I get it on one hand. On the other hand, I'm thinking, I can't imagine a scenario that you would ever need this guarantee.
Right.
And if you needed the guarantee,
you don't deserve the guarantee.
Right.
Exactly.
Boom.
Like
this is I'm in that camp. I'm like, wait a minute. If your second best team is not good enough to warrant this, they're not good enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Which
I
seems
can't imagine. I can't imagine a scenario where the SEC nor the Big Ten does not have two teams worthy of being in the top 12.
Right.
When go back and look, when has that happened? And both conferences are, even when they were smaller, when's the last time that happened? You don't even have to bother looking at the SEC.
Right.
I know that. And even with the Big Ten, I don't think you have to look at it because you don't have to go past Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State, much less Wisconsin when they had their run going.
Yeah. Same with Michigan State. Michigan State was a top 12 team for like 4 years in the 2010s, right? Like it like you don't need a guarantee. It's the Big Ten and the SEC because they're also going to ask for more money. I think like they're extra money.
More money.
Exactly. Like the Big Ten and the SEC are just doing a power play here. They're throwing their weight around to let everyone know, hey, we could do this on our own if we wanted to. We could just make it the Big Ten and the SEC Invitational and everyone would still watch. And they're right, but that's not good for the sport. And that's been the problem here the last several years is the Big Ten and the SEC are acting in their own interests. And at this point, their interests are at odds with the interests of the sport. It destroyed a power conference. Like it almost destroyed two power conferences.
Let's be out fair. The Pac-12 destroyed the Pac-12.
It was mismanaged, but someone still had to be there to knock it down. It was rusty. It was rickety. And someone still had to be there to knock it down. And it was the Big Ten that knocked it down at the end.
You know what the Big Ten should have done? The Big Ten should have said, I'll tell you what, we will take over managing the Pac-12.
Yeah.
And they should have taken over managing the Pac-12, used their leverage with TV, forged a new TV deal, but the Big Ten would benefit in some way. But because it needed management. The Pac-12 has a new commissioner, by the way, for all two teams of the conference.
Yeah. I don't really know what the plan is there. What is this new commissioner's job? What is she actually supposed to do here? Like, I guess the idea is to bring in basically her job is to finish the merger that they're trying to do with the Mountain West and like keep the Pac-12's name alive.
I think their hope is to keep the what the Pac-12 brings as far as I can tell you right now, Oregon State and Washington State both want a continued cut that matches their current Power 5 status going forward. And I'm sure they're going to say,
we don't have the money. We don't have the money. Like the Pac-12 does not have the money to do that. Like I'm sure they would like
it's not worthy of it. If you're not deserving of it, why would you be? You're not playing these big games. You're not playing the games on TV that everybody are watching. You're not in the conference that's driving the TV ratings. So yeah, I don't see that happening.
No, it's tough, and so what they will likely try to do is merge with the Mountain West, bring in teams like Boise State, Utah State, teams like that in that area to kind of make sure that the Pac-12 brand stays alive, even if it's not a Power 5 conference anymore, and so you can at least keep a Western football conference alive. And so I think that's something that is going to have to. That's going to be the plan here over the next several years. I don't know how much that's going to happen, how likely that is, because the Mountain West also wants to keep its teams. So we'll see, but it's not a good situation for anyone out there right now, I don't think.
We've got to take a break. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. I'll see you tonight in Bloomington as Indiana is hosting Nebraska. How important is this game for Nebraska to win?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important. Like Nebraska has lost 6 games in a row on the road. They haven't won a road game since December. So got to get over that hump at some point. So
it is hump day. It's hump. The one thing is it's hump day for everybody.
That's right. Nebraska has another chance here to go out and get a big road win. Tell the committee it can win away from Pinnacle Bank Arena.
We'll see what happens, brother. I appreciate you. Have a safe trip down, and I'll see you this evening.
Absolutely, Jim. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, sir. Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Much more coming up in our second hour, including Kyle Neddenriep as the boys tournament is preparing to get underway. The girls are in their finals. Rick Bozich joins us as well. Back. Brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore. For those of you in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
All right, gentlemen.
Appreciate you, my friend.
No problem. Glad to do it. I'm going to head to Bloomington right now.
What are you going to do during the day?
That's a good question. I'm not sure yet. I have to write a preview of the Purdue game tomorrow, but after that, we will see.
What time's the game? The game's not till like 8, right?
8:30. It's a late start.
I'll reach out to you.
All right. Sounds great. I will see you then.
All right, buddy.
All right,
what's that going to be? You're 3 hours away, right?
That's right. Yeah, I'll be there around 1 o'clock or so.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, sir. Well, no one has heard where Derek Queen is going. David, to answer your question.
Well, if I says McQueen, that's not his name. Maybe
yeah,
he did
Derek Queen.
Something.
It's Derek Queen, but his stepfather, Steve. Didn't get that one either.
Or Lightning McQueen.
You don't know who Steve is, do you?
No.
Oh, mercy. Steve McQueen was a very, very famous actor.
What movies were just give me 1 or 2 that he was in?
You know what? I can't remember the name of any of his movies. Oh, this one is not one that everybody else would know, but Tom Horn. He played Tom Horn, who also was a famous historical figure. What up? What it up? What it is? What it is? Indiana baseball got underway yesterday.
I think they're 3-1 to start the year after their trip
and ranked in the
beach.
top 25, fresh off of their 2-1 weekend start on the coast. I wanted to go to that game yesterday, and I planned on it, but it just didn't work out.
I haven't heard from Kyle, but I reached out to him, so he usually pops in when he's available. So we'll see. Here we go.
We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Hump Day, Hump Day! I need to get you to get that old commercial that has that. That's a Geico commercial.
Is it Geico? I know it's one of the insurance commercials. But
I think it is, but
it's definitely it fits today. But I feel like Hump Day as a whole is is very cliche at this point. But I could be wrong. But it fits today just because all Mike Woodson talks about is getting over the hump.
And that's the point. That's what I'm doing. But yeah, it's a camel, so that would be kind of funny.
That's right.
But it is that as the Nebraska Cornhuskers come in to Bloomington seeking their first road win in how many games? 8? Did he say they lost 8 straight? 18, and they've got 18 wins right now. They're on, and I looked yesterday. I was looking at, and I need to go back to that as a matter of fact. Let's go to, I was looking at the bracketology yesterday. It's, I don't pay attention to a lot of that stuff when you're this far out, but there is a lot of accuracy as far as not so much as where they play, but the fact of who's in, who's not in. It's close. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joins us now. Slowest time of his year, probably about right now, with boys and girls tournament play happening. Kyle, how are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Jim?
Just living the dream. I know that the girls are about to wrap it up play for the year, right as the boys are about to get started and ramp it up. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
Well, yeah, I mainly cover the boys, so I'll just start with that. I, have the final week of the regular season and working on a lot of stuff to get ready for the sectional. So basically working on, preview stuff. I was actually up in Fort Wayne yesterday to work on a couple things and watched Kellen Pickett play from Blackhawk Christian, and fun game. Double overtime game. They beat Leo. But yeah, so it's just got a lot going on, trying to get a lot done here before the end of the regular season. But yeah, looking forward to sectionals next week.
Yeah, and they will all get underway. Is there a first game matchup that is like, man, this sucks that this is happening, but here it is?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few of those, and I haven't actually. I was going to do that probably for early next week or later this week, but I mean, New Pal playing Mount Vernon, those two teams actually played last night, and kind of like Heritage Hills and Princeton, they played last night, and then they play again next week in that sectional 31 in 3A. So you see, those are kind of the oddities where I'm always curious, like how much you're actually putting everything forward in those games where you see their name pop up, then you play them 2 days later, and then you have to play them again next week. So there's definitely a few of those, and then there's the unavoidable, the sectional at Noblesville this year, and every year it's really good. I mean, the Carmel Fishers game, that one came up. That one was like, wow. I mean, right away, and Carmel's not, they're only, what are they now, 12-10, but they started out 5-9. So, they've really been on a roll. They beat Fishers. The only team that's beat Fishers this year is the team Fishers has to play, when they're ranked number 1 in the state. So, I mean, that's tough. I mean, that's there's really no.
I saw that. I was looking at that yesterday, and I'm like, how in the hell? And they were 11-10 in the rankings I was looking at, but Carmel, I'm like, how in the hell is an 11-10, or maybe they were 10-11? I don't know. Either way,
they were 11-10. Yeah.
I'm like, how are they ranked like 9th or whatever they were? I'm like, that just seems impossible to me unless they're playing Montverde and IMG and Lalu every week.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they've been so hot here. I think they've won 8 out of 9, and they beat Fishers. They beat LN. They handed both those teams their first loss of the season. So, it's I get it. I mean, people look at that and like, how is that? And as we've talked before, I mean, you can't really judge solely off records. I mean, because everybody's schedule is so different, and Carmel definitely plays a schedule that's if they're not number 1 in the state in schedule, they're they're pretty close to it. So, and they are number one, actually, looking at their schedule here on Sagarin. So, it's I don't know that they can beat Fishers again. I wouldn't put it past them. This isn't a vintage talented Carmel team. They went through some struggles obviously early in the year, and they just don't have a lot of scoring early, but they've kind of figured out who they are, I would say, as the season's gone along. And they do have a Evan Harrell, who's 6'8", sophomore, who he'll be definitely Division I prospect, and then Alex Kudo, who's a junior, can really knock down shots. He's their leading scorer. So yeah, I mean, they are 11-10, but all records are created differently, I would say, and they're certainly in that boat. I think they were 3-7 to start the season, and then 5-9, and then since then I've really picked it up and played well and beat some really. I mean, you look at their the teams that they beat. It's and now they're 12-10, but they beat. After they lost to Brownstown Central in overtime, they beat Pike, Brownsburg, Ben Davis, Fishers, Lawrence North, HSC. They lost to HSC, but then beat Brebeuf, Warren, and Attucks last night. So I mean that's just that's kind of a who's who of teams that are the top in our area. So if not the state. So yeah, I mean it's a weird thing where they were getting beaten. Sometimes Cathedral beat them easily, Noblesville beat them easily. So. They've really kind of turned it around. It's credit to Ryan Osborne and that that staff there for getting them turned around this in a season like that. You don't see that happen very often.
How cool was it to have Oscar Robertson in town, and with Attucks doing so well? I was wondering if he might stop by there or just go by and say hi to that team.
Yeah, I mean, I got a chance to talk to him. Did a story about his the statue they're putting up over there. They announced the commissioning of it at the opening of the All-Star festivities. I think that was Thursday night last week, and I got a chance to talk to him about a week before that on the phone. And he's really, he was really, taken aback by that. So proud, surprised. I mean, obviously a great honor, and the fact that it's going to be put over at Attucks, is even cooler, I think. So, that's it was cool to see him on TV again, and right before the All-Star game started. And for 85 years old, he still gets around really well, looks great. And I've had a chance to talk to him a few times over the years, and I still think he's if you take everything into consideration, high school, college, professional, I mean, to me, he's number one in the history of Indiana basketball, with what he did at each level. Certainly Larry Bird belongs up there as well. But from a high school standpoint, Oscar, two-time state champion, undefeated team, first black school in the country to win a state championship, all those things factor in. And then not to mention the college and pro career he had. But yeah, it's really, really neat, and glad to see there were several articles written, nationally about him, which I tried to read all the ones I saw anyway. And it was neat to see him honored like that. I've been around that school a lot, in my time covering high school sports, and it's a neat place. It's got a ton of history. I always enjoy being there, and still have all the pictures on the wall of those championship teams. And of course, they have the museum there, and a lot of really alumni that are deeply invested into that school. And we're getting to an era now where a lot of those guys from the 50s are getting up in age, and 60s even, and it's a great era of city basketball, and definitely Attucks included, and Oscar right at the top of that list, obviously.
The boys are about to get it on in the tournament. And let's see, Trent Sisley, I know I sent out something yesterday. He was honored as Heritage Hills' all-time leading rebounder, breaking his brother Blake's record, which I forgot to mention that in the tweet, I think. But and his brother Blake got to present him with the ball, so that was kind of cool. He has another year to go on destroying this record.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive. I will say, I know you're talking about Sisley, but man, this junior class, it just seems like every game I go to, I don't even know sometimes who like the Leo game last night, and another really good sophomore, Solomon Richard up there that I watched had 25 points last night. And, Sisley's definitely one of the elite juniors, but man, it seems like this class is just overflowing with good players and talent, which will make next year, really, really interesting. I know we're still obviously going into this year's tournament, and that's fun as can be, but man, next year, it's a loaded 2025 class. And obviously Sisley's going to put his name at probably the top of about every record at Heritage Hills. And I remember talking to his brother when he was part of the Indiana All-Stars, and they missed out on playing with each other by a year at the high school level. But I remember him telling me how good Trent's name was out there even at that time, but he was saying, yeah, it would have been fun to play with him, 1 year, and having missed out on that a little bit was unfortunate, just the nature of it by how they were spread apart age wise. But yeah, I mean, I think Blake knew Trent was going to be, this good. A lot of people down there, I think, did, and even before he started his high school career, and he certainly has, lived up to that billing.
Yeah, and the Sisley family, obviously a big part of that area. Blake, who played at Evansville and daggone it, Wright State, I believe, and was asked to walk on at Indiana, but he said he's done with the game. So yeah, the Jalen Harrelson. Oh man, it's wild how even when there's a little, it seems like anytime there's a dip in an Indiana class, the next year comes back with a vengeance.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean this class, it reminds me of 2012 when that class was just like, it wasn't names. There were really high names at the top, like Gary Harris was in that class, and Yogi Ferrell and several others that were very talented and had NBA careers and whatnot. But it was just like, just a long list of like, that guy went on, had a really good college career. That guy, just dozens of players. And that kind of reminds me of what I think this class can be. We're kind of in a different era now of basketball where you may not have those early offers like you did back then, but man, I really do like this class. And a lot of the, some of these guys are smaller college players or even NAIA type players, but there's a lot of them. And I think a lot of teams that are going to be loaded with talent and experience next year because of that. You're going to have I think going into next year, we'll have a very good idea of who the top teams are, and assuming we don't lose a bunch to prep schools or whatever, I'm sure there'll be some of that. But it looks like a really good year going into next season.
Yeah, that's the one thing I do hate to see. Like I said, more than once, I hate to see the state lose that talent of guys that like Jalen Harrelson, who will not be able to go for Mr. Basketball or the All-Star team. And there are others. It stinks because to me that is just. I personally, I would be hard pressed to give up on that opportunity because of what it means. I mean, that Indiana Mr. Basketball, that's as far as high school basketball or sports. Period. To me, it's the Heisman Trophy of high school basketball.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that's a big argument, and was anytime you go. I was actually at a school yesterday, and they had all their Indian All-Star jerseys out in the hallway, and all that stuff, and it's fun to look back and remember the names and look at the jerseys and the write-ups and all that on the walls and everything. As at Blackhawk Christian, they have Caleb First, obviously, and some others, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, you miss out on that kind of being a legend at your school to a certain extent, and all those things. And but at the same time, the NIL, if you can go to Overtime Elite and make money off of your NIL or whatever, I mean, I get why that could be enticing also, and it's a different world from that standpoint anymore. So. And Jalen Harrelson, he could, technically he could come back next year and play. I mean, he's only a junior, so there's always that. I haven't heard that necessarily, but he does have another.
Now, wouldn't that be wild?
Yeah, I mean, stranger things have happened. So you do hear, I hear so many rumors and stuff like that. It's not even, I'm not saying that's a rumor out there, but I wouldn't, like I said, stranger things have happened. So you never know. I mean, you never know if that's the route someone stays on, or they could change. He could go to a different prep school. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, he does have a year left, so that could still happen, I guess. And if he did come back, he certainly would put himself in that mix for sure. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's a different world. I can't say, if I was in that position, I think I would probably stay at my own school just because, you enjoy the high school experience. But if you got a chance to go make a whole bunch of money too, I mean, you only have so much time as an athlete to be able to do that. So I understand that too.
Absolutely. As the tournament draws near, who are some of your favorites you're looking at to win it all? I know that Fishers is the team sitting at the top. Lawrence North had held that position for a while, but man, they've lost 3 games here on this backside of in 2024 at least.
Yeah, I mean, what you're going to see is a lot of these teams are going to knock each other out in that opening week, even before we get to the weekend in some cases next week. So, who can survive? Can Fishers get through? They've never won a sectional title, and 2 years ago, when Harrelson was a freshman, they were ranked number 1, and Braden Smith, kind of went, Wyatt Earp on everybody in the sectional, and he basically won Mr. Basketball in that week. I mean, he was unbelievable during that sectional week. So, weird things happen. Guys play well. They earn Indiana All-Star spot sometimes. Like Luke Almodovar last year from Noblesville. I mean, he led that team to a sectional title in that sectional and made the All-Star team. And I think that's the reason why he made it. And kudos to him. So, that'll be, to me, that's kind of the team you're watching is Fishers. I think at this point, they've been the best team all year long, but it's such an interesting situation having to play Carmel in the first. I guess in some ways, and I talked to Garrett Weiniger the other night, the night of the sectional, about it. It's kind of like you have your players' attention, because there's no overlooking the one team that beat you, so that you can spin it positively that way. But I think they would have liked to see somebody else for sure. But yeah, to me, that's the team in sort of a year where I think a lot of teams have a chance to win it. I mean, they're still, they've proven themselves as the deepest team, but they definitely have some flaws too. So, I would start there. Lawrence North to me is the most veteran, tough, physical team out there. They don't have an easy draw either, though. They have to play North Central right out of the gate, and they barely beat them the second time they played them. North Central's been just kind of all over the place, though. So, and Cathedral, I think, Cathedral's a team. They have the bye in sectional 10 for the second straight year, and they're the team that ended up winning it last year. Almost an entirely new team to a large extent, but. Them Addicts. I mean, there's so many teams. Lawrence Central's actually been hot here lately, and they play Warren, which should be a great game. So, sectional 8 and sectional 10 are just like little state tournaments into themselves. So, whoever can survive those has a chance. But, there's a lot of teams out there. Like Ben Davis is quietly really a strong favorite in their sectional, and has a tournament, resume from last year. Some of those guys have played on that team. So, and then someone's got to come out of the North, and it could be, Fort Wayne is very good. And Kokomo, and Kokomo, to me, they're playing their best basketball. They may be looking at their route. I mean, they would have to play the Fishers sectional winner, Noblesville sectional winner in that regional, 1-game regional. So that would be a fantastic environment and game. So, I think most of the teams, when you look to the North, there are some good teams in the North, lesser so like when you look to Southern Indiana, but Jeffersonville is good. Evansville Harrison is good. Those are a couple teams to watch out for. I would say down that way, Center Grove would be in that group, even though they're Indianapolis area. They're very good. Brownsburg in Plainfield. Those two teams play each other in the first round next week. So there's a lot of good teams. Probably a handful that have the ability to go all the way, but we'll see some upsets. We'll see some teams that will be scratching our head next week. Like, how did they get beat? And I don't know who those are right now, but it'll certainly happen.
Looking forward to it. Make sure you're giving him a follow and staying up to date with what's happening in the boys Indiana basketball tournament as that gets ready to get under play. Kyle, I can't thank you enough as always.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joining us as the boys basketball tournament gets ready to get under play. Up next, the captain, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com, joins us. Plenty to talk about. Brought to you by our friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg, Indiana. For those of you living in the southern part of the state, keep up with that championship smile. Go see our friend Dr. J. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly.
Morning, Rick.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, just peachy. It's hump day. So there's that.
Who's going to get them over the hump?
Exactly. That's been
Hey,
the
man,
theme
I
of the
just gotta get me over the hump.
What if you are the hump?
I could be the hump. If I was the hump, I would have been rolled over numerous times already.
Okay.
Assembly Hall needs to have the Humpty Dance song playing in between timeouts today.
Oh,
Maybe not
boy.
every time, but just do it once.
I don't think that would go over too well.
I think Mike Woodson should just lean into it. He should lean into it and embrace it.
Yeah.
So who's taking responsibility for the uniforms? I saw two different people denied responsibility.
I don't get the uproar.
I don't either, but
it's just something. Trust me, if they were
Here's what I
winning,
said.
they could wear pink.
Yeah. Here's what I don't mind alternative uniforms. I just didn't think those looked they didn't appeal to me.
They look like practice gear.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
That was my only thing was, they look like practice gear. That's it. I get it because you have to look real close to see what all's on them. The Hoosiers was on the side of the shorts, which I didn't know that until I was like really blowing up the picture. 3 stripes right here for the Adidas thing. Other than that, yeah, it just
pick them. They're not even favored tonight at home, huh? Wow.
Well, I wouldn't. Why would they be against a team that's lost 8 straight road games?
Louisville's even favored tonight. Louisville's favored tonight. Yeah, they are.
Who are they?
They're playing Notre Dame.
Shawnee?
Though. They're playing
Notre Dame by a point and a half, baby. And Notre Dame's won 2 in a row
in the ACC.
I think it'll be a tough game. Notre Dame's gotten better. Shrewsbury's a good coach.
Yeah, I agree. I thought about putting money on that game for my parlay, but I was like, nah, I'm not going to touch it.
It's 1.5.
Louisville is one of the hardest teams to bet on because sometimes they'll show up, other times they look like they have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah, they just check out on defense. They play like zero defense sometimes.
That Pittsburgh game was Jesus. Who's the dude who scored 40-something points?
Blake Hickson.
Jeez.
He had, at one point late in the first half, he had more points than Louisville. He had 38, and Louisville had 37. Might have been early.
AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this hump day. No better to get us over the hump than the captain, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com, who has plenty to cover this week. He just mentioned in the break, the Louisville Cardinals are actually a favorite over Notre Dame at home. Micah Shrewsbury from Jeffersonville originally doing a good job with the Irish, but it's gonna take him a second to. Notre Dame is one of the teams that I would give more leeway to than most because they don't. I cannot imagine they have a great NIL presence in basketball. I'm not sure how much of an NIL presence they have in football, to be honest with you. I don't know, but basketball, yeah, I would not think there would be much. So I can see where that could be problematic. You've got to get guys that can get into the school. I mean, it's like but Duke probably has that same issue.
Not as much as they used to. Coach K took care of that.
Exactly. If you don't believe me, go look at Zion Williamson's the whole thing behind that. Do you think that any chance, Mike, one of these days, Mike Krzyzewski is viewed by those that are in the know tied to someone like Sam Gilbert?
Probably not. I don't know. I think Duke's big advantage was they had a really, really, really good relationship with Nike, among other things. From what I hear from different coaches, they had a really good program set up that, if you came there, that your family usually came there too. And
yeah, you'd go from an $800 a month rental home to a $5,000 a month rental home with a Mercedes, I forget the three different vehicles, but yeah, there's that. Indy, let's see. Kentucky is playing better basketball. That's got to make their fans happy. Reed Shepherd, what a great year that kid is having as a freshman. He's better than his father already.
Yes, he is. I saw The Athletic came out with their revised top first 2-round draft picks the other day, and he's a lottery pick. Him and
really?
Him and Rob Dillingham are ahead of DJ Wagner. They had DJ Wagner all the way down the second pick in the second round.
Now that is a surprise, and that is something Calipari has to get some credit for that, for allowing him to play. But as far as the development, I'm going to have to give the kid the credit. I mean, he just seems like one of those guys that is working his ass off.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously his mom and dad were both college basketball players and really good ones, and he got coached really good from a really young time in his career, and is in the gym all the time and worked on his craft and pays off. And he's very athletic. I mean, he can do. He's not overmatched when he's on the court by quick guys or strong guys. He can hang in there and do his thing. So props to him. But Kentucky also plays tonight at LSU. They got a tough week. They got LSU on the road, and then they had come home and play Alabama on Saturday, which is the game of the week in the SEC. And then tonight, the thing about Shrewsbury is they've won their last 2 games, and he's switching Notre Dame from Mike Bray's offensive-oriented system to his defensive-oriented system, and he's doing a good job. And I see some of the comments, Derek Queen supposedly going to Maryland. Iowa goes on the road and beats Michigan State last night.
Iowa did not have a quad 1 win until this week, and now they have 2.
Yeah, shows you can be done. Teams can improve and get better. They don't have to go backwards. Not going to mention any names, but they don't have to go backwards.
Exactly. They don't just have to drink magic potions to get better. I think
they can get over humps.
Yeah. See, I said this earlier, and I'll bring it back up when I was talking with Dylan. The issue that I think that Indiana fans have with Mike Woodson, because it's what I see pretty clearly, is the same questions that have been asked all year, because they're obvious, are being given pretty much the same answers, which is really a lack thereof. If I had a magic potion, well, we know you don't. We practice free throws. Well, it ain't working. Whatever the case is, my question is, or would be to him, what are you doing different since that has not worked? Just standing shooting free throws ain't working. And I know I'm repeating myself from earlier, but I said, I would have people with cymbals standing behind them, just banging cymbals, yelling at them, doing all kinds of, I know it sounds silly, but those are the kinds of things, thinking outside the box. If it is mental, that'll help you get over the mental part. I can't imagine being at home and there being such a mental block that you can't hit free throws, but they're no better at home than they are on the road. So I have a hard time buying that, that it's constantly, that you're constantly in your mind that often. Just don't go hit some free throws. Gee whiz. So I just don't know that anything is being addressed. They may say that they know what's going on, but what is actually being done to address the situations?
Well, I think what you're talking about is this. I mean, you can say we practice extra free throws, but if your technique or your mindset or your approach to it is wrong, all you're doing is practicing things that continue to have you miss them. You have to bring some analytics into it, whether it's film study of, look, is this guy not have his hand in the right position? Is his elbow too far out? Or his feet set the right way? Is he going through the right mind process as he's getting ready to shoot the shots with positive visualization? How's his follow through? Those kinds of things, and say, yeah, we see that this is what we see in this guy and we're trying to address it. But just to say, yeah, we shot 200 of them. Well, if you're not shooting them the right way, you're still not going to make them. I mean, it's mind boggling to me.
And that sounds just like Todd Leary, who says that almost every one of these guys have some kind of a shooting flaw.
Yes.
And he says, he said, just give me a weekend with these guys. He goes, there are just some shooting flaws. And the sheer fact that a guy who was a great shooter and can just see it from the sideline, yet you have people that are right there every day, they don't see it that way. And you have an entire staff around you and a staff of consultants around you, and that's not being said. That gives you great pause for concern of how everything is being done.
I mean, it comes off sometimes as an afterthought, like, and it's not really an afterthought. It's like special teams. I compare it to special teams in football. It's like, it's a way you can get an edge without really being super athletic. Like in football, you can have an edge on special teams just by really focusing on it and being precise and recruiting the right long snapper who never screws up, getting the right guys on the edge that hold the edges down, paying attention to what you're doing. And in basketball, making free throws can give your team an edge. And you can't just keep going through a whole season shooting 66%. I don't know how many games it's already cost them, but at least a couple. And it's unnecessary. The other part about Woodson that annoys me is he does a lot of, without saying their names, passing all the blame onto the players instead of himself. Yeah. I got him open shots. They just didn't make them. Well, maybe they're not the right shots by the right people. I've got to come up with a different system so we score more points would be a better answer instead of saying, I got them open shots. They're just not making them. People don't care. What people care about is, why aren't you winning games, and what are you going to do differently to change that so you are winning games? So it's just to say, he's been saying that ever since he's been here. I got him open shots. They just got to knock them down. Well, they're not.
Get them comfortable. I got to get them comfortable.
Huh?
I got to get them comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how are you going about doing that?
It's almost the end of March, man. This isn't the NBA where you're going to slip into the 8th spot and make the playoffs. You're not in the tournament. You're not going to be in the tournament. You might not make the NIT. You just lost to Northwestern 4 times in a row. You lost at home to Penn State by double figures. You're not doing a good job.
He seems like he is not quite connected to that. I don't know how you, as a coach, that you could have that much of a disconnect, but that certainly seems to be a disconnect there.
It comes across as he doesn't think he should be criticized for anything.
Oh,
it's like, dude, you're the coach at Indiana. You're going to be criticized unless you reach a certain standard, and not making the tournament is not the standard. Right?
I'm trying
I mean,
to. Yeah,
it's
I'm
the
just
same
trying to
criticism
think of
Archie
all
got.
the-
It's the same criticism Tom Crean got. It's the same criticism Mike Davis got. If you're in the third year of your time at Indiana and you're not within, miles of the tournament, you're going to be criticized, and you should be. That's what I
Yeah,
think.
I'm thinking about all the things that we've heard this year for reasons, youth, injuries, just not able to hit open shots, just can't knock down free throws. I'm like, yeah,
Hey,
we know.
Penn
know.
State came into town without their best player and beat Indiana. Northwestern came into town without their second or third best player and beat Indiana. Every team has injuries. Kenny Payne has 7 guys left. I mean, Kentucky's had every team has injuries.
And they're
Nobody
a
wants
favorite
to hear
tonight.
about it. Huh?
And they're a favorite tonight.
Oh, Louisville, yeah. But it's just nobody wants to hear about injuries. When Mike
No.
Woodson played at Indiana, he was injured in 1980, and the team went on and had a good year and made the tournament. He was out for a good part of the year with a back injury. The other guys figured it out, and won. I mean, so quit talking about that. It's a crutch.
Oh, and yes, that reminds me of another earlier when he was criticized for his substitution patterns, which have greatly changed. But it was, I can't play these guys 40 minutes a game. That kept going on, and we're like, we're not asking you to do that, really, but why? Because he, coming off of back surgery, his senior year, and his 6th game back, played 45 minutes in an overtime game against Ohio State. So, and who was in better shape, athletes of today or athletes of that era?
Right.
So nothing is making sense. And
well, it's going to be interesting. I'm not going to be there tonight, but I'll be up. There's 2 things I'm interested in. 3 things. One is what the crowd is, because we're at the point in the year where a team, like, if you lose touch with making the NCAA tournament and you have an 8:30 game, the people that have to travel very far to come are going to say, you know what, I'm not really sure I need to make this game. Secondly is, how competitive they are against a Nebraska team that beat them by 16 on the road. And did you say Nebraska's lost 8 in a row on the road? Is that what you said? Yeah. So can they win this game, which Indiana has a pick 'em at home, and they've already lost to Penn State and Northwestern at home. And thirdly is, if they do lose, if the crowd starts to get vocal in terms of their disappointment. So you're going to be my reporter and let me know how that all comes out, because I'll be at the Louisville game. But I'll be looking for that.
Well, I can tell you one thing that I have noticed the last 2 games, because I've taken pictures, is the balconies empty. And I do remember there was a game when it was full, and I'm like, wow, that's surprising. People came in for this game. But last couple of games, not there. And the minute you start seeing that, then the next thing I remember during Archie's tenure, the corners of the main seats, those start going empty.
Right.
That's when you know that it's not even worth a lot of fans taking the time to attend the games.
Well, let's be honest, Jim. We've been talking about this the whole season. This hasn't just been from the last couple of weeks. From the very first game of the year, when they struggled to beat Florida Gulf Coast, which is not a good team. They struggled to beat Army, which is not a good team. They shouldn't have beat Morehead State.
Wasn't one of those teams without their best players?
Could be. Yeah. It's like, it's not just they haven't played well recently. I mean, they haven't really played great all year. I mean, right? I mean, how many great games have they played? 3 or 4?
Great
Maybe
games?
their best performance of the season might have been against Kansas. That might have been their best performance, and they lost that game. Right? I mean, they got blown out by UConn. They got embarrassed by Auburn. They got blown out twice by Purdue. It's bad basketball. I mean, it is.
They've lost one less 20-point game than Tom Crean's 6-25 team has.
There you go. Yeah. And they got 2 5-stars.
Yeah, and there were no 5-stars on Tom Crean's team.
No, there wasn't. But this is the thing that really comes across when I listen to the interviews is that I don't think Mike Woodson grasps what the perception is by most people of the product he's put out there this year. He doesn't understand why people are critical of Indiana. And if you step away from it and look at it, it's not that hard to see.
No, because it seems like in his answers, he's oblivious to there being a connection between coaching and the results on the court. Or it's just too much comfortability knowing that he could lose the next 6 games and ain't nothing going to happen to him because he wins. Just gets him to the tournament and got $1 million raise. And so why in the world should he worry about anything else?
Well, but do you really, if they lose out, if let's say they lost every game the rest of the way, don't you think the public pressure would at least get to the point where it'd be a discussion?
Well, it depends on who it's a discussion by. It would be a discussion in the public,
right?
But
not by the people that matter.
Not when you have Quinn Buckner as the head of the board of trustees,
right?
And you would think that Scott Dolson would feel pressure to have a conversation because his job has to be, at some point, there has to be accountability by the administration because I've pointed these numbers out. If and when Mike is bought out, he'll be the 3rd straight Indiana basketball coach that has been bought out of the contract. Right. And that also includes, you can throw in Tom Allen in there, and you're going to be looking at upwards of $38 million in dead money being paid to coaches not to coach at Indiana. So there has to, at some point, be accountability to that.
Well, he'd be the 3rd straight basketball coach alone. I mean, because would be
that
Crean.
Cost $4 million.
Right.
Crean was $4 million. Archie was $10 million. And even if they wait another year for Mike Whitson, that's going to be $8.4 million. So that's a lot of $1 million. I keep saying the only job in the world I want is to be a fired coach at Indiana. That's my dream job. But we've got to take a break. The great Rick Bozich with us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Are you going tonight?
Yes, sir.
We'll see. I'm looking at it right now. They could definitely lose to Nebraska. They could lose at Penn State Saturday. They can lose to Wisconsin. They can lose at Maryland. They can lose at Minnesota, and they could lose to Michigan State. I mean, they could lose them all.
Absolutely.
If you end the season on an 8-game losing streak, you don't think there's going to be heat on him?
Heat. It's not heat on him. I don't know that he feels heat.
Who would heat be on Dolson?
It's got to be on Scott Dolson. It has to be. I mean, it just has to be when you give kind of a ridiculous contract extension that was given to Tom Allen, and that $15.5 million is a lot of money to just go away. But it all doesn't fall on Scott. But between Fred Glass and Scott, who that was Scott's boss, so it's coming from the same area. And I pointed out on boards, Rivals boards, not in public so much, but, they passed up on Chris Reynolds, who had AD experience.
Right.
More importantly, they passed up on Pat Kraft, who is now the AD at Penn State.
Right.
So, and I don't know if either of those schools are paying millions and millions and millions of dollars in dead money.
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
I just think that they've gotten into this. They were in the no Bob Knight camp for a long time. Then it was, we got to get back to the Bob Knight camp. And so everything was dictated by those parameters first. So instead of having completely open parameters, you keep closing them in certain directions, and yeah, Mike Woodson was not a name on anybody's mind.
I remember
until it popped up.
I remember,
and that was because
I think the way it went down was Brad Stevens and then Thad Matta, and Thad Matta didn't want to do it, and then
no, Thad Matta. The deal with Thad Matta is, and I caught a grief over it. Just made a slight mistake. His health
10 seconds,
was
guys.
not
Here we go.
there yet.
Yeah, right.
Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is hump day and game day for Indiana men's basketball. Rick, tomorrow, Caitlin Clark Mania comes to Bloomington. Indiana fans, Indiana Hoosier fans, last chance to see her play in Simon Scott Assembly Hall, but more than likely not the last time they'll see her play in Indiana.
Yeah, if she decides to go in the draft, the Fever having the first pick in the lottery, she would be in Indianapolis.
Her boyfriend's Connor McCaffrey, who works for the Pacers.
Oh, okay. All right. It's a big game for her, obviously. It's a big game for IU women, though, because after losing to Illinois, they've kind of put themselves in a position where some people aren't sure they're going to be able to host the first two games of the tournament. And a win over Iowa, I think, would put them back on the positive side of that. And I think it's the next to the last home game for Mackenzie Holmes and Sarah Scalia. And I'm not sure if Chloe Moore McNeil's decided if she's coming back next year or not. Parrish, I know, is. But Mackenzie Holmes, for sure, it's her next to last game. So that'll be a monumental night for IU women's basketball, and they need the win after they got beat at Illinois.
And it would be a huge win because they have beaten any and everybody on their schedule, minus the big teams, except for Illinois the other day, which that's a shocker. They lose big on the road to a team that normally they had beaten. But when they have played Stanford and Iowa, boy, they've got Ohio State averaging losses of 20-something points.
They were competitive against Ohio State. I think they only lost by 6 or 8. But, yeah, you're right. Stanford and Iowa both blew them off the floor. So, they've dealing with Sidney Parrish being out. That's been a big issue for them.
We'll see if they can get that back together. But it will be I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like tomorrow night at Simon Scott Assembly Hall. I expect a raucous time.
It'll be the best men's or women's crowd of the year, really.
Oh, and there's no question it'll be the
loudest, most energetic,
most energetic, even more so than Purdue just because. But we'll find out. Indiana men, of course, tonight against Nebraska. Tominaga and the Cornhuskers, again, Indiana's kryptonite has been good guard play by the opposition, and that's one of the things that Nebraska brings in. He kind of torched the Hoosiers last time out.
Yeah, he's had a good career against Indiana. A lot of guards have had big nights against Indiana. We'll see what kind of game plan they come up to slow him down. The difference in Nebraska this year is that Hoiberg's filled out the roster where they got 3 or 4 different guys that can hurt you, and they're playing to make the NCAA tournament. Nebraska's got a lot on the line in this game. They need to get a road win to buff up their credentials. What place are they in the Big Ten? They're maybe I'll look it up right here. They are
talking about Nebraska.
Yeah, they're 6th. If they win against Indiana, they're 9-7. They'll be tied with Michigan State for 5th. So they're probably on the wrong side of the bubble. I mean, they're probably they're in the bubble area. So this is a huge game for Nebraska.
Yeah, I was looking at the bubble last night, and the last 4 buys includes Nebraska. This is on, of course, there's a couple different ones, but the one I'm looking at, it is Lenardi. I shouldn't hope that Mike DeCourcy doesn't hear that. It's just one I happened to pull up quickly, but Nebraska is on that line. Butler was on the last 4 in before losing to Villanova last night. Villanova was on the next 4 out, so they'll get to move up a little bit. But interestingly enough, the last 4 in, the last team in, Ole Miss and Chris Beard, a team that was 13-21 last season, that he got off to a 15-1 start in a league that second toughest league in the country this year, behind the Big 12, the SEC, with so many good teams, to turn that team around, to get through that gauntlet. That is a hell of a coaching job.
Yeah, I mean, no one's ever said he wasn't a good coach. The questions to him have been all about his behavior. So he's won wherever he's been. Texas has gone backwards since he's left. Texas Tech has gone backwards since he's left, and Ole Miss has gone forward since he's been there. So, I mean, his credentials as a coach really can't be challenged.
Looking forward to this tournament. I can't wait. UConn gets beat by 18 last night, but ironically, they had not won a road game in 10 years to a ranked team.
Really?
John pointed that out earlier. I'm like, huh.
UConn hasn't beaten a ranked road team in 10 years?
Yeah, 0-21 in the past 10 years.
Wow.
Against ranked opponents on the road.
Wow.
The things you learn on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, Rick. It's crazy.
Have they won at Wisconsin? That's a bigger credential.
Ooh. You know what? I would wonder if they've even been to Wisconsin
Probably
in 30-something years.
Probably not. Just being a smartass.
Oh, I know. I'm just kidding. Not only did UConn go down, but of course, I think since we've spoken, Purdue goes down at Ohio State.
Yeah.
That one's a little bit that kind of eye-opening because of who it was. Ohio State has just been not good. They fire their coach and get a win over one of the top 2 teams in the country. That Purdue fans are not going to want to hear this, but that is, to me, why Purdue will not win the national championship. But more importantly, in doing some research, why I try to answer all the questions when people comment, even afterwards. A lot of Purdue fans are, just like Indiana fans, they get upset the minute you say what. You can say 10 things nice, but that first bad thing you say, oh no, buddy, they're all over you. And something that I went back and researched was the last 5 NCAA champions have had a minimum of 4 NBA draft picks on their roster.
Right.
It doesn't mean that season, it could have been there also, the year after, but they're with them. Purdue does not have anything close to that.
Well, they got one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking one at best. And so, again, that's why I would say, nope, Purdue is not going to win the national championship because they don't have the talent to make that deep run, to go up against teams back to back like UConn and then whomever else it might be. What if you had to play Northwestern followed by whoever else you want to throw in there, and then UConn with all this great guard play? I think that's what gets them. Teams with good guard play is going to be their downfall. Experienced guard play.
Yeah, I generally agree with what you're saying. I guess what I would say is this. One, it's hard for any team to win the national championship. Only one gets to do it every year. So I think the fair standard would be, can they get the Final Four? I think they can get to the Final Four, but I don't think they have a great margin for error because of the reason you're talking about. They've got Zach Edey, but the other 4 guys aren't NBA type players. And the teams that are really good usually have 2 to 2.5 to 3 to 4 guys on their team that are going to be, pro players. And Purdue doesn't have that. And so I think it comes down to several things is where it shows itself. You got guys who, when the game's really on the line, can just take the ball and make a play. And that's not Zach Edey because he's not in control of the ball. Teams can try and find ways to keep him from getting the ball. And there are also guys who are, really tenacious defenders who can make the other team struggle. I'm not sure they have that. So they got to prove people wrong. I mean, I've written this multiple times every week when I post my AP poll. Purdue can't prove anything this season until March. Anything they do until March is irrelevant. The only thing they can do is win in March, because they've done all this other stuff many times.
Absolutely. What's up next for you?
Louisville, Notre Dame tonight with Tom Crean on the call. So I haven't seen Tom Crean since he left IU. I'm going to go over and say hi to him.
Please tell him we said hello. He's a great friend of the show, and he is gracious enough to come on pretty frequently, and we'll sure have him on one as soon as the tournament starts as well. Enjoy yourself. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you greatly as well.
All right. Send me a report from tonight. I'll be anxiously waiting to see how that turns out.
Will do. The great Rick Bozich, the captain from WDRB.com. That's going to pretty much wrap it up for us today. Thanks to Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal and Gazette, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star, and of course Rick Bozich, John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines, and most importantly, each and every one of you. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Appreciate the Ugly Grouper as well. If you're down in that area on Anna Marie Island, Florida, stop by or go visit. Stop in and tell Thad we said hello. We got more coming up. Expecting post game tonight with after the game for Indiana basketball recap. And then tomorrow we're back here to talk about it as well. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat.